Anatomy. Dude, what are you? Hey, what's up, Reefers? Whew, have not talked to you guys in quite a while. As you can see, I'm still alive. I have a little black circle around my eyes, but it's totally worth it. Actually, you know what? Today we're gonna talk about baby. We're gonna talk about the 10-gallon budget nano tank. The tank has been up for about a year at this point, and it has really stabilized. Recently, I made some huge changes to this tank which totally reshaped how the tank looks. The tank has really absorbed all the new bio load like a champ. In my experience, all the reef tank that I had, once it has hit that 1 year mark, things just go way smoother. It's much more forgiving, there's no big swing anymore, and for the most part, it's smooth sailing. Without further ado, let's take a look at how the budget nano tank is doing after a year. And just like my regular tank update, it's gonna be pretty freeform. I'm just gonna go with it. And here and there, I'm gonna pop in some of the top lessons learned from me. And also I got a lot of frequently asked questions about the setup, what works, what does not. And I'm gonna drop some of them in here as well. So let's go. Hey, what's up, Reefers? Welcome back to the budget Nano Reef. This tank has been up for almost a year now. Well, actually, it's probably been a year. And recently has been for a lot of changes. Most noticeably is that it has turned into what I call the frog spawn mountain. Look at this crazy cluster of frog spawn. Now, if you've been following my channel, you know that this frog spawn actually came from the 45-gallon tank, and for whatever reason, the euphyllias are just hating life there. I've done an ICP test over there in that tank, and I'll share the results in the future upcoming video. For now, all the euphyllias have been moved to this tank, and as you can see, it has really recovered and doing really well. Same thing with the hammer back there. I actually moved the hammer here earlier this week, and already it has really stopped the receding and it's growing back. And even though it's not euphyllias, you see the kryptonite, candy cane, all the receding stop. You still see some skeleton right there, but they have pretty much puffed up and happy once again. And this is the original part of the original colony that I got, and it is doing well. So whatever is happening in the 10-gallon budget nano tank, LPS loves it. And that is the situation for all the LPS in this tank right now. Same thing with the ACANs. Now right here, it actually prompted one of the things that I get asked a lot is that, do I dose? Because I do have some LPS in here, and before I have a cluster of SPS right there. Well, when I say cluster, it's pretty much just a green Monty cap. So I do dose for this tank. Let me preface this by saying that for a tank this size, unless you're going like full-blown SPS, in my humble opinion, probably don't need to dose. I think water change, weekly water change, or even like every other week water change should be good enough in terms of replenishing all the stuff that's necessary in terms of alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, and all the trace elements, assuming that you're using any remotely decent salts. Now, in my case, because I really want to test out the single channel doser, let me show you. This is the Coral Box single channel doser, quoted as the world's smallest doser, at least back then when I started reviewing it. I wanted to test it out, so I was like, okay, well, I don't really need to dose anything for this tank. What do I want to do? Do I want to do calc or what? That's when Mighty Nano Tank introduced me to Alpha Reef. Tropic Marine's Alpha Reef is equal parts alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium. And I've just been dosing it, and it's been fine. And I never really checked the DKH of alkalinity in this tank. But recently I started testing it because now that I have a lot of LPS in here, I figure, okay, I better keep track because these things soaks up all those elements. DKH was actually around 5.5, and since then I've tried to raise it to at least 7 because I feel like that's kind of like where I'm comfortable with. And the corals did kind of respond positively to it. It was not hating life before, but now it's even loving life a lot more. So that speaks to the importance of more proper parameters. But if given a choice between like better parameters or stability, always take stability. You want to make sure everything's stable. And that kind of brings me to the second question I get asked a lot is that, hey, what do you do with like top offs, right? Because the initial concept for this tank is a budget tank. So a auto top off system kind of falls outside of the realm. The tank itself, like title say, is $146 to set up, and that's the bare minimum equipment to get this up and running, which includes a light, which is about $70. That is the Aquanite 029, still a fantastic light. I still recommend it. The tank, which was like 15 or 10 bucks, it's 10 bucks from Petco. The filter, which is quite expensive for in terms of like equipment for this setup. The filter was Aqua Clear 70. I think it was like 50 bucks or 60 bucks. But and also a heater. Heater is around $20, and I think I may have missed the numbers here and there, but total is about $146. But the question I have is that, okay, if you have additional funding, right? If budget is not a super tight concern, it's not super tight, what would you recommend? I would actually recommend a auto top-up system. I think it's super important, especially in a small system like this, because when the water evaporates from this tank, only the fresh water goes out, meaning the salt remains in the system. That means there will be a salinity swing. Whenever it swings, all the parameters swings as well. So the first thing I would like to do is to make sure the water levels stay consistent, and to do that, I have a auto top-up system, and I'll show you guys. I have a trusty flashlight right here, and there's two of the auto top off right here coming in. Next to it is the dosing tube. So the auto top-up system I use is the Smart ATO. Smart ATO Micro, I like it because the sensor is super tiny and it's optical, so there's a really small chance of failing. And the funny thing is that if you use the Acrylic 70, you actually have a nice little divot you can tuck into, right? So you can't even see it. It's sitting right underneath this guy right here. And the auto top-up system is linked up to a nice little acrylic reservoir that I have. This is like a 5-gallon reservoir, but you don't have to be picky with the reservoir. It could be anything, like even like a water jug. And I know like Mark from Nano Reef makes some nice one as well. This one I found on Amazon. It is pricey. It's like $70, but I really like the blackout look. And I get the flashlight again, and it's clear up front, so I know the water level. And you see right there, it's not much to it, just a pump inside, right? So this is my auto top-off system. The ATO, I think is like $150 or so. It's pretty pricey. And the container is like 70 or something like that. It is pricey. This thing is pricey. It's almost like double the cost of the whole system. But if you have the funding, I think auto top-up system is fantastic. And of course, you can also bring it with you as you upgrade your tank. Not like the light where it may be underpowered for a larger tank. So sorry for the huge tangent, but that's one of the popular questions I get too, like, oh, if you have the money, what would you buy? What else would you recommend? So let's dive back into the livestock. I know I'm kind of all over the place right now, but I kind of enjoy jumping all around, thinking, keep you guys on your toes, right? So right here in front of us, we got sexy shrimps. Last count, I think I still have 6. We started with 7, quickly weaned down to 6. And these guys have just been here to stay. They've been doing fantastic. They got chunky, they got large, but it's hard to find all of them right now because obviously with the frog spawn, there's a lot more hiding spot. But when I feed the tank, most of them comes out. And I believe I still have 6 of these guys. There was a point where I was worried that these shrimps are picking at corals, and I was considering pulling them out, particularly zoas, right? But I just kind of forgot and left them. And they seem to be doing okay, so here they are. And to feed these guys, they're pretty good about catching these prime reef fish flake. And that's also one of the questions I get. What do you feed your fish? I love feeding them frozen food. Now I understand that too much frozen food is not good because we're introducing a lot of phosphate to the tank. But of course you can rinse them. However, when I'm on the go, I like to feed flake food or pellets. For flake, I really like the prime reef flakes. I've been talking about it for years. I'm not sponsored, I just really like the product. But for shrimp, initially they're not too keen on catching flake. So I actually found some interesting food. These freshwater shrimps food. I actually forgot what it's called. Some Japanese brand, but you shrimp. Oh, here you go. Hitinoiza, whatever. It's kind of like secret feed for shrimp. I used to have cherry shrimp, so I would feed them. I also feed these guys Shrimp King's Color. Again, these were for my freshwater shrimp, which the tank is gone. But you know what? Let me just kind of chuck one of them in there. And let me see I need my 2 hands. Sorry, no cut. When I do tank update, I don't really cut the video too often. Figure it's I'll treat you guys like you're in my house, which I find kind of cool. So it's like a little pellet like that, and you're just kind of sink. I'll throw my 2 or 3. I'm not gonna drop more because I fed them actually earlier today. But sometimes the shrimp will smell them and they'll come out. And the porcelain crab, I call him Chairman Bao, who's in a 45-gallon tank now. He'll try to reach for it too, so it does smell good. And since we're looking over here, we got the 2 clownfish in this tank. We got Nemo, that's the Ocellaris clown, the standard Ocellaris, and we got the Extremis bar, which we dubbed DJMM. Now, a couple videos ago, you guys will see that they were like fighting each other for dear life. Well, specifically Nemo has been trying to like get DJ MM out of his territory, which is the entire tank. Things are not going well. However, once I started moving all the stuff around, I moved all the rose bubble tip anemone. I moved all dude, what are you? Intruder alert, intruder. Okay, fine. We're rolling with it, no cut. Here's Emily. Mom, newly dubbed mom, and here's what's his name? Leon. Leon. I was like, what's his name? Leon. Literally inappropriate. He's just covering his face, not ready to face a crowd yet.
Okay, he doesn't like camera.
Okay, yeah, I guess he doesn't like camera, but yeah.
No more
Inappropriate Reefer. Let me tell you guys something, man. The $45 tank, the light schedule now, instead of 6 p.m. to 12 a.m., is now 3 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Do you see the blue light?
Yeah, because the blue light may not be good for the kid.
That's why he's covering his eyes.
Yeah, so to be on the safe side, we kind of changed up the lighting schedule a little bit, just so that whenever the kid is down in the living room hanging out, the fish tank light is not on.
Shirt.
Anyways, oh yeah, the shirt is cool. Chip and Dale. Uniqlo, you got good stuff.
Okay, Dad, time to work.
Okay, yeah, going back here. Sorry for the tangent.
Work for me now.
What? Oh, you want to go downstairs? Actually, I've been carrying her up and downstairs because she can't really walk yet. Okay, give me like 5 minutes. 5 minutes. All right, be right back.
5 minutes, huh?
All right, 5 minutes. Guys, you see, it's like marriage life, man. I'm sorry.
I hate
No,
you.
no, lovely. Closing the door. Yep. Okay. All right, guys, I'm back. I'm sure for all of you who are married and have kids, you guys understand. I'm like squeezing all the time I have for you guys. So where were we? Totally lost track. That's okay. Let's move on. Walking dendro for almost like 2 months. It has been parked here, not moving. So I was kind of concerned. I was like, did it die? Did the sexy shrimp eat the peanut worm underneath or whatever worm? Because what happens like underneath this coral, there's actually a worm. Wait, actually, you know what? Let's try. Let's test this out. So here's the dendro, and usually underneath. Ah, there it is! I'm not sure if you guys can see it. It's still there, it's still alive. So if you look in the, can't really see it. There you go. Not focusing. It's okay. There's a little hole at the bottom of the skeleton, and a worm actually lives there. It's the craziest thing. But okay, the worm is still there. That means like maybe the eating is good there, so they're not moving. They're just kind of hanging out. I was worried that maybe the sexy shrimp got to the worm, so it's just the dendro now. So good, but it has not moved. Sliding over here, Zoa has been doing really well, especially these worldwide coral space monsters. They're doing fantastic until the rose puppeteer anemone started moving around. So if you guys remember, I have 3. I have 1, 2, 3, right? And then all of a sudden they decided to play musical chairs, started moving, and they started stinging everything in their path. And that is just what anemone do, right? You can't blame them. That's what they do. So it stung the zoas up there, the zoas up there, and this guy right here. And that's why I had to move them all around. They're slowly recovering. I mean, zoa is pretty resilient, so it's good. However, as a result, you know, I think we took a step back because they were spreading really well, like the space monster right here. So now we removed the rosebud anemone. However, I replaced them with frog spawn, as you can see. So they're still kind of drawing, I guess, their territory and boundary. And I'm just hoping that the sexy shrimp's not taking advantage of the situation of zoas. Like you see how the zoa is kind of damaged. I'm hoping that they're not jumping in to eat them. We'll see. Coming down over here in the back, that's actually a new addition recently. So Tank Addicts Daniel was really generous. He gave me a mother Sunkiss bounce mushroom downstairs in the 45, and within 3 weeks it split, and this is the baby. So the baby has been in the 45 for quite a while, but it's not doing too much, and it keeps getting buried into the sand, right? So I was like, okay, well, let's move it up here. I'm kind of curious to how the bounce is going to look underneath the Aquanite 029. So here it is. We'll see how it goes. The really good winner is actually this little clam right here. For a long-time viewer of this channel, you guys know that this is the clam I picked up from a WAMAS meeting. This was sold to me by Pacific East Aquaculture, dubbing us a hybrid clam. It is a hybrid clam of a squamosa and a derisius, and you can tell by the shell. You see how smooth it is, except for it still has a little bit of the shoots. And also the mantle, you see spots that is indicative of squamosas for the most part. The interesting thing about this clam is that it was not growing much at all in the 45-gallon tank, where the rest just kind of took off and it was really light in color. Where after moving into this tank, after a month or two, it seems to have really settled in and started growing. I started seeing it putting on size and it got dark. It's starting to look nice. Before it's kind of like, the color's kind of tannish. Now it's actually dark, has nice contrast, so it's great. Coming over here, we got the it's a Japanese weeping willow. Regular weeping willow is all tan, and the tentacle is actually a lot longer. The polyp is a lot longer. The Japanese one, stubbier, but you do get some green, so it's a trade-off. So now I'm still looking for the regular weeping willow, but the Japanese one is pretty cool as well. One really common soft coral I'm actually looking for is Toadstool. It's a crown toadstool with the white polyp. I had them a long time ago. They're just beautiful. When they get large and you just get a feel of those white tentacle, especially in the water current, it's just beautiful. It's just got a little nice wave of white polyps. I've been trying to find it. Tangent again, sorry. The acan has some up and down. For a long time they've been doing well, but then some of them died back a little. However, recently it started growing back again, so that is good. That's actually one of my attempts to introduce some different color into this tank, because before we got a nice balance of red and green. We got a lot of frog spawn, obviously, and also we got some nice rose bulbed anemone if you look back, and it has a really, really nice balance. But right now it's just pretty much straight up all green, you see? So I've been brainstorming what are some easy corals that stays open that we can introduce to this tank, and I actually post this question on Instagram as well. And somebody recommended Ricordia. I did not have luck with Ricordia in the 45-gallon tank during the time that I was trying it, but seeing how it's two totally separate systems, I think I'll try it again. So if you have any good source of orange Ricordia, specifically orange Ricordia, orange Florida Ricordia to be specific, please let me know. I'll be interested. Coming back here, we'll see the Kryptonite candy cane. I think we kind of touched on it briefly before. So far these days it's looking decent, but it is really close to the hammer. Although right now it doesn't seem like they're really bothering anybody else, but I'm not too comfortable seeing how close they are and knowing how potent hammer sting can be. So soon as I can, I'll probably be trading or selling some of the frog spawn, and we'll rearrange this tank a little bit. And that may be a nice segue into Aquascape. How do I plan to aquascape this tank down the road? Now, in terms of aquascaping, my plan, right? Let me just kind of settle down here and show you guys. It looks like this. This is my main viewing angle. Main viewing angle. And I feel like it's just maybe just too much going on here, and it just blob. It's like a wall. It's like a wall of random corals. And this Gorgonian, gross Gorgonian, is definitely not helping because it's kind of going gangbuster and ruining the shape. Anyways, when I put the frog spawn here, my main concern is to make sure things are not being squished. They all get adequate lights, which I'm failing over here, but I did the best I could under the situation. Now that corals are starting to really adjust to this light, see how the tentacle is no longer super stubby, I am starting to think about aquascape. So I am hoping to maybe mount some of these frog spawn off this wall, off this back. This back wall is painted black. It's kind of hard to see because I got all these encrusting stuff going on. But I want to mount some of them like that and kind of shoot them out, almost like a reef crest. And then possibly building some of these guys up in the middle just to complete this whole look. So there's a nice dramatic cliff right here. And then I want to drop where there's like a clear channel right here. There's nothing going on, just like nice white sand, probably around here. I want it 2/3 the way in. And then we got a nice little island. So it's not too far off or different from the 45-gallon tank, except it's more rectangular versus cube. My challenge comes around here. What color can I bring without losing control too much? For example, like rose bulbed anemone, that's an easy pick, right? It's nice bright red and then got motion and stuff like that. But of course they move, and that's one of the main reasons why I moved them all to the 45-gallon tank. They look amazing down there, by the way. I'm gonna show you guys possibly next week. But for now, they are out of this tank. So like I mentioned before, orange, Florida orange Ricordia is probably a strong pick. I thought about rock flower anemone. However, I don't feel like I can really, well, you can kind of stack them, but they do still move. And I feel like the color may not be as vibrant as Ricordia. I don't know. Zoas I thought about, but I feel like Zoas, they kind of morph color depending on the light and situation, like this space monster, etc. So it's kind of hard to pin down the color, especially if I want to make sure that I get something vibrant. For example, this is like a Sunny D, right? But it's like morphing into almost like a sour apple. It's almost like green, right? The yellow is completely gone, so it's kind of hard to control. So I feel like stuff like Ricordia is a little bit more consistent in color. So I'm gonna look into that. But if you have ideas for bright orange, yellow, purple, red corals, please let me know. It has to be intense enough to offset that. Maybe Goniporas? Oh, the Gonipora, the color has been insane. The cost has been insane recently. There's some nice ones out, but it seems like they're all like $200-$300. And I would prefer to get something a little bit larger than like tiny frags, right? Or maybe if the price is good, maybe I get 2 or 3 tiny ones so I can kind of line the rock with them versus just one chunk. I feel like they were nice. One big thing I really like, tip for aquascaping, at least like from my personal diary, right? My little diary, is that instead of one big chunk, I like to break it up and kind of line them in rock so it conforms to the rock work, the aquascape. And but obviously it's not really, well, it's kind of the case here because there's actually 4 or 5 different chunks of rock spawn here. But that's one thing I do. I don't like to just have the same coral in one place. I like to kind of litter them a little bit so it looks a little bit more natural in my weird taste, I guess. Dude, I ramble. I can still ramble. It's been like 20 minutes. Holy smokes! And I think we only cover like half the stuff here. But anyways, this is the 1 year updates, and some of the corals that have been here since the beginning includes this Gorgonian. Well, not so much at the beginning, but maybe like halfway through. Gorgonian. I cut some Gorgonian, stick it in, and it just kind of, as soon as it's established, it just grows. It just explodes in growth, as you can see here. Nice hardy coral to give some nice vertical formation versus everything is almost usually flat. And I really attribute to how easy this tank is to patience. I know people hate that word, but yeah, patience. The patience is important for the tank to establish the biological filtration. And that's actually one thing I asked. People were like, oh, what kind of filtration do you use? And I'll show you guys right now. If you look back here, there's Aquaclear 70. In the back, first chamber, there's a little mash bag in there. And in there's some GFO. These are the Phos Raws. I think that's what it is. It's one of the best GFOs out there. I use this when I notice some diatom in the tank, but I know a lot of people use Chemiclear Blue. I think because it contains some GFO as well to handle the phosphate issues. But I stick that in there whenever necessary. If I see some diatom that doesn't disappear after 3 or 4 days, I use that. But I think the last time I dropped it, I just kind of left it in. But it's probably exhausted at this point. It's been there for a long time. And in the back here, I got a small refugium. But to be honest, I don't think the refugium is really doing much because I've never pruned this. Macroalgae has always been in there. So I don't think there's enough phosphate or nitrate for it to take up. Now the real beef, the winner, the VIP of this filtration is these guys right here. These are Marine Pure Spheres. So these are from the 45-gallon tank. So I have a bunch of these in the 45, knowing that I have a small tank up and coming. So I let the bacteria start migrating and living in these little spheres, right? And once I set up this tank, I just drop these in and just give it time to really establish. And I really think that these are the reason that I can do what I can in this tank. It would be a little bit tougher to start them off with brand new media. These, because I took these from the 45-gallon tank. But if you have a buddy that has a successful reef tank, just like buy some of these like Marine Pure Spheres or even blocks, right? You can chop up the blocks and put them in the sump or refugium for a while. And once you get your tank up and running, then bring them over. I think this is important because once you have the sufficient biological filtration, right? It's more forgiving. Like if things dies, if you feed too much, you overfeed, the bacteria that's living in there can help break it down. And whenever you add something new, hey, look at these guys coming out. And whenever you add something new to your tank, give it some time. Give the biological filtration, give the bacteria in the media some time to kind of populate and kind of compensate with the new addition of bioload, so that your tank doesn't go through a little, I don't want to say mini cycle, but essentially that's what it is, right? It doesn't, if you add too much, just give your tank some time to adapt. And to be honest, that is probably my number one tip. Just be patient, specifically for your biological filtration to catch up with whatever you're doing. This way you have a little bit more buffer room in case you make some error, you introduce too much nutrient. It will hopefully absorb most of it and you won't experience some major like algae issue and stuff like that. In those cases, yes, there's Band-Aid, for example, GFO or carbon if you have some kind of like impurity that went into your tank. All right guys, I've talked way long enough. There's still some stuff that I want to cover. I feel like we're barely scratching the surface. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I would love to answer them, and this will probably help spark like future videos and stuff like that. Otherwise, dude, hang out. I think I'm slowly getting a hang of raising a baby, and I think I'm probably ready to come back uploading consistently. It's only been 2 weeks. I thought I'd be gone for a couple months, but we'll see. We'll see if this lasts. However, this tank has been almost maintenance free up to this point. I honestly never really cleaned out the bottom, the hang-on back filter. I never really. When was the last time I did water change? I know my aim was like monthly, but the last time I did water change was probably 2.5, 3 months because I've been so busy with the baby coming and then of course marriage and stuff like that. It has been a while, but this tank has been pretty much running itself. So I struck a good balance. I was able to have enough biological filtration. I do not add enough to really overwhelm it too much, even with all the frog spawn. So I've been really lucky, and I think this is a nice, good, clean, cheap tank to have. Not sure if I would recommend a beginner to start with a 10-gallon tank because it's honestly not too much buffer room in terms of error. Much comfortable of recommending like a 30-gallon plus, or maybe a 25 Lagoon as a good size too. But if you can stay on top of things, and if you don't mind getting a auto top-up system, this may be a good option actually. However, for a more seasoned reefer, absolutely man, go for a Nano Reef, 10-gallon, $146, that's all you need. If you can be consistent in terms of topping off water. Otherwise, invest in a auto top-off and have at it, right? Alright guys, I'm gonna sign off, I'm gonna go play with the baby, and I'll see you guys next Sunday at 12:30 p.m. sharp, hopefully. See you guys.
Everybody take a look at this and tell us if this is the way wrong way, but it kind of seems right.
Now, if you blow from one side, does it sound like